Hey, my name is ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to review painter Chuck Black. So let's get into it, guys. So one thing I noticed right off the bat with his channel is his YouTube name is Wildlife and Art. So it's kind of a keyword to get to his thing. And then obviously when it gets there it says Chuck Black Art. So I think that's pretty good as far as keyword search. Let's check out one of his paintings here. So this is a horsey painting. So this is a super fast time lapse at the beginning here. He's obviously drawn the horse in roughly, and then he's just kind of backfilling in the painting. I'll just speed this through here. So like if you compare this to like yesterday I did Bob Ross, but you can see the high level of detail in that background. See, obviously a way better skilled artist than Bob Ross. And you get that really nice tonality in the background that goes really far in the background. He's got really good color blending skills as well as just that slow layering process to get that really nice touch on the background, and then he slowly builds up the warmer colors, the warmer greens, the warmer browns into the painting as he gets closer up. Skip ahead a little bit. So with the grass, he's just slowly layering in that, the original green, and then he goes with a little bit of lighter color, and he's working in the browns and the dark greens, and he just kind of works that back and forth, which is a really excellent way to build up the grass. He's using between a dagger palette knife that kind of goes to a sharp point, and he's also using a palette knife itself, so he kind of make those sharper marks to get the really high grass. So let's go a little further ahead here, starting the horse. So again, really strong detail. He's just, he's literally just, filling in that drawing. So that's a really strong way to work. It's easier to work that way. It's funny. My aunt would say that's like, fill in the dark, fill in the, or my dad would say that about my grandpa because he wasn't a really good guy, but he was a painter. He kind of filled in the blank like this. So he never got good because he started later in life, maybe in his 60s. But yeah, this guy's just nailing it here. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Go a little bit ahead. Again, the fine detail work is just mind-blowing. Let's just skip to the end here. So again, really mind-blowing brush control. Let's skip to then. So let's go into the next video. Okay, so he has member-only videos, so you can't access that. But that's really cool because you actually have the full explanation of how he paints is what you really want. So he's kind of have these time lapses, kind of your intro into the way he works. You can see the detail. If you want to master it, you can subscribe to his channel. So this is really cool. Before, YouTube didn't allow this, so now they're kind of allowing this, so this is great. Obviously, I won't be able to watch those and review them, unfortunately. Let's go to one of his tool things. This is about brushes.
Today I want to talk to you about my all-time favorite paintbrush, the round blender brush, and just what it can do for you. But before I get to that, because you guys are so awesome, I thought that I would do a giveaway on today's video. So
he's got a giveaway, we'll skip that.
My appreciation for you guys for just for being here, I guess, and for all the support you give me. So just thank you guys so much. I think, I don't know, 67,000 plus subscribers, which is, I just can't thank you guys enough. So it's the least I can do.
Of course, he's high quality artist, so I'm not surprised.
The round blender brush. This thing literally changed my whole perspective on things when I discovered this brush. There are two different brands that make this. The Princeton round blender is what they actually call it, or the Artist Loft scrumbler brush. Now the Princeton you can find pretty much anywhere you can get art supplies. The Artist Loft version I've only been able to find at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something. But I'll have a link to the Princeton version down below here. There's two different sizes that each company makes, and both these brushes are virtually the same. So let's start out by talking about how it worked out for me, or how I used this brush in this recent painting that I just finished. So when I got started on this painting, I realized about halfway through how much I was actually using it, which kind of was the whole reason why I decided to talk about this and justify a video just for this paintbrush. I used it for numerous different things, like the fog in the background. I used it for laying in my trees. I used it a ton on the sky, blending out those colors in the sky is just a breeze with this paintbrush. So 90% of the sky was probably painted with one of these brushes. I used it for adding highlights and shadows to the trees. I use it for laying in a lot of the foreground or grass area. And then when I got to the oils, which is what you're seeing right now, I used it to blend out the oil paint. So I used a small round brush to just spot on the colors of oil paint, and then I picked up one of these blender brushes and just blended that all together. You would have never known that I spotted on the color in the first place.
So a really interesting brush stroke, and obviously the high utility of this brush. Let's go over here, a little bit ahead.
Now I know that you're asking yourself, is smooth blending the only thing that this brush can do? Glad you asked, because nope, this thing can do a ton more. Check this out. Let's say we want to paint some rolling tree lines, maybe some ridges that are rolling off into the distance. We could use the side of the brush and paint in a tree line, add some darker color, paint in some darker tree lines, and just kind of create that atmospheric look of trees rolling off into the distance. If I want to paint some foreground detail, maybe I'm going to lay out the base for some grass, I could just take some green and I could use some vertical strokes up and down and create some wonderful texture to start with in your foreground, just kind of some grass-like texture that, you know, we can build off of. And then if you're looking to create, say, some rock texture, watch how if I take this brush and just pat it straight up and down to the canvas, how it'll...
So I really like how he's explaining all the different brush strokes. This is a key element because a lot of painters would struggle with how do you get those grass look, how do you get it like mountains in the background, how do you get bushes, how do you get lines. You can get that individually in a tutorial, but this is kind of cool because he's just showing the technique straight off. So I think this is a pretty strong video. Let's see if we got more ahead.
Of blurred out trees. Okay, now let's do a really quick example with oil paints. So I could just take some warm gray and sort of outline the idea of a storm cloud, then mix a darker, cooler gray, add in some shadows, and finally just mix maybe a lighter highlight color, a warm highlight color, and just blend in some highlights, and boof, we've got a beautiful storm cloud ready to add more detail. It's kind of just a great starting point, and that took almost no time at all. And then one more reason why I love this brush so much is that when they start to wear down, they start to form like a cone shape. And you can kind of see with this one right here, I don't know if that'll focus. There you go. You can kind of see it forms a cone shape. And that alone can create some really cool textures. And really the brush just gets smaller and smaller.
So it's got I think that's a really good video as far as explaining how the brush will work. And let's see what other kind of videos he has. Yeah, it's unfortunate that he has these protected videos. That makes sense why he does it. You can make money off of it. But yeah, it would have been really cool to get a look at that. So this is interesting. This is just about acrylic painting. So right now he has golden and he has Atelier. I've used both. I've usually mostly golden. Atelier is very good as well. I like to just use one brand if possible.
Do you really need all those colors? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today, as I thought that I would do a video on what acrylic paint colors do you really need. And I'm going to show you why the answer is probably no. And I'm going to show you the colors that I use, my favorite colors, kind of my secret arsenal of colors to mix any color under the sun. And I think you're going to enjoy it. I think just about anybody, even if you're more than just a beginner, you're more advanced. I kind of blew myself away with how many colors I could actually mix with these 3 extra colors that I have.
So yeah, this is a really important skill to learn as a beginning artist, I think, is just start with a very small core color base and really master your color mixing. It's going to go really far. Even now I kind of struggle a little bit with getting the right colors and everything. So mastering the color mixing is going to be huge for later when you get better at shape, you get better at composition, you get better at perspective with, you know, getting your small to large correct. But yeah, getting those color mixing skills is really crucial to being a really excellent painter versus just a good painter. And you really want to be an excellent painter because you won't really sell at that good level very well. But at the excellent, you'll just sell like, you know, hotcakes. He's probably selling like hotcakes. I could see. Let's keep watching.
And the rest that I have on my palette. Now, sort of the basic limited color setup that I have now is titanium white, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. Now, a couple more obvious colors to add to the mix that will be helpful is cadmium orange and burnt sienna, which I also have. But I also have 3 colors that are sort of my secret arsenal of colors to mix any color I want, and they are quinacridone magenta, green gold, and primary cyan. Now, the green gold and quinacridone magenta can be found with a lot of brands. Atelier and Golden both make these 2 colors, and Liquitex probably does as well. However, Primary Cyan, which is my favorite of the 3, I've only been able to find through Golden. So if you're looking to buy some new colors or you're in the market of buying a new setup, here's an example of the Atelier colors I just ordered. We have white, yellow, orange, red, magenta, burnt umber, and ultramarine blue. But I already have the green gold and primary cyan with golden and burnt sienna with my Liquitex.
So my perspective, I use also, besides the ultramarine, it's kind of a warm, nice traditional blue that they've used in the Middle Ages. I like to use a Quin blue, which gives you a really nice purple when you blend it with Quin red. And so I add the Quin red. He's using Quin magenta, it's very similar, basically the same color. One is a little redder, the magenta is actually the true red. So he does have the 2 colors I kind of work with. He has a cad red. I use a Paroli red, which is very similar to cad red. The cad yellow, yeah, you definitely need. I like to use a primary yellow as well, but I find that cad yellow is just use a more go-to yellow, so I definitely agree with you there. And the green gold I've never used. I don't think I own it. I use a phthalo green because it's super intense and you just can't get that color. And so I use a little bit of the phthalo green and just mix it with, you know, the cads and the burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is just a must-have if you're doing anything landscape, I think.
And so I didn't add the green gold or burnt umber when ordering the Ateliers. So keep going. Let's take some cad yellow and some cad red, and it's going to give us some nice orange. And all the way over on the right, I'm going to take some ultramarine blue. We're going to add some white, and that's going to give us that nice sky blue that a lot of us look for. Then of course we take that same blue and add some burnt umber. We get a very neutral black, which we can add white to create some nice gray tones.
So this is really a really good skill if you can master, is learn how to make black on your own. You can obviously cheat, just use black. Like a lot of times I'll just take black and then mix a little bit of color. You get kind of like, oh, that was a cool mixed color, right? You don't want to use a pure black per se. Always mix it, I think. But this is really awesome if you've mastered a skill where you can just straight up make black right off the blue and the burnt sienna. It's really awesome.
That's basically the colors that you can mix with a set of primary colors along with some white and burnt umber. If we continue to keep mixing these colors, all of it's going to start to look more muddy and dirty. So that's where we start thinking we need more colors, right? Well, yes, but I'm going to show you how just adding these 3 extra colors can unlock virtually any color under the sun without needing to buy all of those colors that you saw in the beginning of the video. So let's start with our green. It's kind of a neutral, flat-looking green, but let's take some green gold and see what that looks like next to the green we mixed. Look how more vibrant it is, and then if we add some white, man, that just pops. A very beautiful, brilliant green. Let's keep adding some green gold. Wow, it's just super vibrant. So right off the bat, we can see how brighter it is than our mixed green. Now check out this quinacridone magenta. Look how much more vibrant it is next to our cad red. And if we add some white, it gives us this beautiful, vibrant pink. Very different from the red. And if we keep adding more of that color, you can see it still retains its vibrancy and its brilliance. It's just really...
Yeah, the Quinn colors are just amazing. Literally, when you get them, it's a huge difference, like the way he's showing you. And he'll go through a whole bunch of other colors. Let me do one more video. Let's see what we got here. And
hey guys, today I'm going to show you my favorite way to clean oil paint brushes and how to make one of these cool paintbrush cleaning cans, which I use pretty much every day.
So this is crucial. You obviously want to have kind of a brush cleaning tutorial if you're doing any kind of a painter. I have one. And so he's showing you how to use oil paint. So this is obviously crucial. You can see he's an advanced oil painter, obviously very skilled. So what he knows is going to be really great in this video probably.
I've got my old can right here, and you can see how dirty it is, how much sludge has built up. It's definitely time for a new one. So let's show you how to do that. What you're going to need is just a regular old smaller size paint can. I believe I picked this one up for about $1. You'll also need some 1/4-inch hardware cloth. You can find this at most hardware stores like Ace or True Value, or even places like Walmart. The next thing you'll need is a pair of snippers or wire cutters like I'm using here. And finally, some mineral spirits. I like to use Gamsol. So I'll open up my roll.
So yeah, the Gamsol is very well used at the higher end. They don't use turpentine, they use Gamsol. So it's more preferred at the more advanced level.
Of hardware cloth a bit and just kind of get access to the leading edge of it. And I'm going to place my can right in the corner of it, leaving about 2 inches around the edge of the can. I'll take my wire cutters then and make some initial cuts, and then just continue to cut out the square. So once that's finished, I'm going to take those flaps and fold them one direction. So I'm going to create a cube with an open end. And once I have those flaps nice and straight and folded the way I want, where I can stand up that cube on its own, I'm ready to insert it into the paint can. So this takes just a little bit of effort to kind of squeeze it into the opening of the can, but it shouldn't be too hard with a little bit of elbow grease. And once it's in there, I give it and now I'm ready to clean some brushes. So the first thing I'll do if my brush has a lot of excess paint on it is I'll use a paper towel to wipe off that excess. Then with a very light amount of pressure, I'll gently swipe the brush back and forth on the cloth. And then I can use the edge of the paint can to wring out the excess mineral spirits. And lastly, I'll usually have a second jar of much cleaner mineral spirits on hand where I can give the paintbrush a second wash. And this really cleans it out well. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. He doesn't use any Dawn oil or Dawn liquid soap to kind of really break down the oil paint. He's just using a pure mineral spirits. And yeah, let's see if he conditions the brush too.
Pretty darn clean. So these cans are going to last you a long time. This one is 5 years old. and I paint my brush, that paint sediment will fall all the way to the bottom of the can. So I've got a lot of space between the screen and the sediment at the bottom. So that way, when I wash my brush, it won't disturb that sediment down below, and the top portion of the mineral spirits will stay generally pretty clean.
So this is great because you can just, you know, use this can over and over and over. He's had it for 5 years before. Now he's like, it's just full of sludge. But yeah, you don't have any waste product because it's really toxic. The products from oil paint, not necessarily the oil paint themselves. Some of it's toxic, some of it's not. But really that Gamsol or turpentine, all that's just horrible for the environment. So if you can store it in this oil can, this is a great way to really preserve the environment and, you know, paint as well. So let's go a little bit ahead.
I found that they're either quite expensive or the screens don't sit very high off the bottom of the jar. I'd also recommend having a good brush cleaner or conditioner on hand. There's a lot of different brands out there that make these type of things, a lot of different things that you can use actually. But basically, if you're looking to store your brushes for more than a day or two, and you want to make sure that you're maintaining the condition of them, that they're not getting frayed or dried out, it's a good idea to use something like this. And for any of these, I would just use as directed. So that's it. That's how I clean.
So yeah, it's a really good overall product take on the brush cleaning, how to maintain it. He obviously uses a conditioner to the end. And so I think that was a really cool technique, how to build that really high reservoir for doing oil paints. I'm kind of thinking myself, how would I do that for acrylic? Because I haven't figured out how to clean acrylic well, except for like washing it, you know, scraping off the paint, and then it goes down the sink, and then you got sink issue with it plugging the drain. So maybe I'll look and see if there's an acrylic version. Maybe ask Chuck here. Maybe he could do a vision if he's seeing this. Since I haven't figured it out as acrylic paint, I just scrape the paint off as much as possible of the waste. I do have like a sludge, huge gallon that I pour all the waste product in, and then I just dump that eventually. But it's horrible because it's like, oh, why do I go dump this? And the water guy showed up at my house to check the water, and I'm like, hey, where do I dump? Do you guys have a place? I don't know. Go tell them. I'm like, dude, you're the expert. But yeah, Chuck has a really great realism style here. You can see he's blending the colors extremely well. He's got the technique of all the different brush strokes that you want to use to get those really bushes, mountains, horsehair, animal hair. He does ducks. He does all kind of wildlife mixed in with the landscape, so he does both. And obviously, once you do the wildlife, I think it's a little tougher than a landscape. A landscape is a little more forgiving because you can get the hills off, you can get the grass off, and it still kind of comes together because any landscape could be a landscape in reality. So if you get the proportions off at all, it doesn't really matter as long as you get the straight horizon line, so to say. And, you know, the clean breaks between the distance and the foreground, that's all you have to do in a landscape. Whereas once you add the animal, all those proportions have to come together. And the way he works is he's got that, you know, draw it in and then just carefully fill it in and then layer on top of the fill-in. So that's pretty smart because you don't have to redo the proportions later. It's just spot on. I don't really paint that way myself. I usually just kind of fill in the blocks and then refine. But yeah, then you have to kind of check the portions again. So I think he has a really good technique. I think you guys can learn a lot from Chuck Black. And yeah, I'd recommend him. And hopefully you guys check out my channel too. I'm better abstract than realism, but yeah, hopefully you check my channel too. Thanks for watching, guys.